Are you wondering how you can create a vintage logo in Illustrator? If your answer is yes, then you're in the right place. Hi there everyone, my name is Andrei Marius. I've been working in Illustrator for over 10 years, and in this Envato Tuts Plus tutorial, I'll put my experience to use as I show you step by step how you can create this round vintage logo using Adobe Illustrator. To complete this tutorial, you need these two fonts and some vector textures. All of these assets come from Envato Elements, so make sure to check out Envato Elements where you can get unlimited downloads of stock videos, music, graphics, photos, fonts, and many more, all ready to use and with simple commercial licensing. You can subscribe right now with the link in the description. Let's move to Illustrator to create a new document. Select pixels from this drop-down menu. Set the width and the height to 850 pixels. Make sure that the color mode is set to RGB and the resolution to 72 pixels per inch. And then you can click this button to create your new document. For the beginning, let's go to Window in the menu bar. And first of all, make sure that the control panel is active. And then open all the panels that have this check mark. Once you're done, go to View and Show Grid to enable the grid. Go again to View, but this time to Snap to Grid, which will enable the Snap to Grid feature. And for this tutorial, you need a grid line every 5 pixels. So let's go to Edit, Preferences, Guide and Grid. Enter 5 in this grid line every box. Click OK. And now, as you can see, you have a grid line every 5 pixels. You can press Ctrl and plus to take a closer look at your grid. And now that you're set, let's start by selecting the rectangle tool from your toolbar. You can either click and drag and have a look inside the info panel to know the size of your shape as you're creating it, or much easier, you can click on your artboard. Let's set the width to 15 pixels and the height to only 5 pixels, and click OK to create your shape. Press Ctrl and plus a few times to zoom in on this shape. Remove the stroke color, select the fill and replace the white with black. Switch to the direct selection tool for a few moments and set the corners radius to 5 pixels, which will turn your rectangle into a rounded rectangle. Reselect the rectangle tool and let's add a 20 by 5 pixels rectangle on top of your rounded rectangle like this. Keep it selected and remove the fill color, which will make your rectangle invisible. Now you can use the selection tool to select both of these shapes and drag them inside the swatches panel to save them as a pattern. Once you're done, you can delete these shapes. Continue with the ellipse tool. Use it to create a 30 by 15 pixels shape. Fill it with black. Continue with the anchor point tool and just click these 2 points to turn them into sharp points. Make sure that this point stays selected and switch to the direct selection tool so that you can set the corners radius to 5 pixels. Now select this shape and let's save it as a pattern. You can reselect this shape and using the selection tool, rotate it 45 degrees like this. Move it up and make sure that the bottom anchor point snaps to the grid like this. Now hold down the Alt key and drag a copy of this shape down. Use again the selection tool to rotate this shape like this. And again move it so it snaps to the grid like this. Once you're done, select both of these shapes and move to the brushes panel. Just click this button to save your selection as a pattern brush. Open the Start Tile window and select your first pattern from the swatches panel. Move to the next window and this time select your second pattern from the swatches panel. Remember to also select tints from this drop-down menu, which will allow you to change the color of your brush after you apply it. And then you can click OK to add your brush inside the brushes panel. Now that you've got your brush, you can press the delete key to remove these two shapes. Press Ctrl and 0 to zoom back on your entire artboard. And let's move to Envato Elements to download this first set of vintage textures. Let's open the Illustrator document that comes with this pack. Select just this texture and press Ctrl C to copy it. Then you can close this document and return to your design. Press Ctrl and V to paste that texture. Keep it selected and focus on the control panel to increase the width to 350 pixels. Then replace the fill color with 103, 40, and 23. Drag this texture inside the swatches panel to save it as a pattern. And you'll need this color more than once throughout this tutorial, so it would be a good idea to save it. This can be easily done using this button. Click OK to add this color inside the swatches panel. Now you can delete this texture and continue with the ellipse tool to start the work on your logo. Again, click on your artboard to create a 270 pixel circle. Keep this fill color. Make sure that the alignment is set to artboard and click these two buttons to easily move your circle to the center of the artboard. And then go to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Roughen. Check these two boxes, set the size to 2 and the detail to 4. Click OK to apply the effect, and let's click again on the artboard to create a 160 pixel circle. Remove the roughen effect that's applied for this shape. Then select the fill and replace the color with 255, 243, and 221. Again, you'll need this color more than once throughout this tutorial, so let's save it. Then click again these two buttons to move your selected shape to the center of the artboard. Then add a second fill for your shape using this button. Keep this new fill selected and apply your pattern from the swatches panel. And now you'll need a transform effect to rotate this applied pattern. Go to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Transform. You'll need to check this Transform Patterns box. Make sure that the Transform Objects box is unchecked. And set the angle to 35 degrees to rotate your pattern. Click OK to apply this effect. Let's click this path section to make sure that the effect which you're about to add will affect the entire shape, not just a particular fill. Now go to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Roughen. Again, check these two boxes, set the values to 2 and 4. Click OK to apply the effect. Make sure that the ellipse tool is still selected, and let's use it to create a 350 pixel circle. Keep this new shape selected. You can press the D hotkey to quickly replace all of these settings with the default ones. These are a white fill and a black stroke. Select the fill and remove the color. Let's move this shape to the center of the artboard. Keep it selected and go to Object, Path, and add anchor points. Do it 3 times. So let's go one more time. Now, if you switch to the direct selection tool, you can notice that this added a bunch of anchor points for your selected shape. Let's select these bottom 7 anchor points and delete them. Do the same with this one at the top. Keep the remaining paths selected and apply your pattern brush from the brushes panel. Replace the color with this one. Now keep just this path selected and let's go to Object, Path, and Reverse Path Direction, which will adjust the direction of the applied brush, and continue with the rectangle tool from your toolbar. Start with a 150 by 50 pixels rectangle. Let's remove the stroke and set the fill color to black. Press Ctrl and plus a few times to zoom in on this shape. Keep it selected and go to Object, Path, and Offset Path. Set the offset to -2 pixels. Click OK to create this new shape, and let's fill it with 188, 38, and 21. Again, save this color because you'll need it again later. Reselect your black rectangle and press the plus hotkey to activate the Add Anchor Point tool. Let's add two anchor points, one in this position and another one in this position. Continue with the direct selection tool and use it to select both of these points. You'll need to hold down the shift key to add to your selection a second point. Drag these 2 points 10 pixels down like this. Reselect the rectangle tool and use it to create a 30 by 50 pixels rectangle. Fill it with this red color. Use the selection tool to place it in this position. Press again the plus hotkey to add a new anchor point in this location. Then use the direct selection tool to drag this point 15 pixels to the left like this. Click this shape to select it. Press the Alt hotkey and click and drag a copy to the left. Use the selection tool to rotate it and place it in this position. Let's quickly move to the layers panel and drag these two shapes below your black shape. And then use the direct selection tool to select just this shape and set the corners radius to 5 pixels. Click and drag to select these 3 anchor points and again set the corners radius to 5 pixels. Let's do the same for these anchor points. And then focus on this black shape. Select these 2 points. Remember that you need to hold down the shift key to add to your selection a second point. And this time set the corners radius to 10 pixels. Once you're done, select all of these shapes and press Ctrl G to group them. Center this group vertically using this button. Let's drag it up. Remember that you can hold down the shift key as you click and drag to constrain the movement of your group. Move it 25 pixels up on top of your logo and keep in mind that you can have a look inside the info panel to know exactly when you get to 25 pixels. Then go to Effect, Warp and Arc. Check this horizontal box and set the bend to minus 45%. Click OK to apply the effect and then expand it by going to Object and Expand Appearance. Press Shift Ctrl and G to ungroup your group. Select just these two shapes and go to Object, Compound Path and Make, which will turn them into a compound path. Select it along with your black shape and click the minus front button from the Pathfinder panel. And then you can press Ctrl and 0 to zoom back on your entire artboard and Ctrl and plus a few times to zoom in on your design. Continue with the ellipse tool to create a circle. Make it a 350 pixel circle and don't forget to move it to the center of the artboard. And then switch to the Type on a Path tool, which we'll use to add some text along this path. Just click on the edge of your shape to add some text. Type in organic, press the escape key when you're done, and before we move this text, let's focus on the control panel to adjust the settings. First of all, you need to replace this font with the Forager Rough 2 font, which you got from Envato Elements. Increase the size to 22, center your text, and don't forget to open the character panel so that you can increase the tracking to 500. Now you can use this bracket to move your text inside the circle and drag it on top of this red shape. Replace the color of your text with this one, and then reselect the ellipse tool from your toolbar to add a new circle that you can type on. Make it 194 pixels wide and move it to the center of the artboard, and then use again the Type on a Path tool to add text along the circle. Let's type in premium quality coffee. Press the escape key when you're done and focus on the control panel to adjust the settings of this text. First of all, replace this font with the Roadstore font. Increase the size to 24 and don't forget to lower the tracking to 150. Then use again this bracket to move your text in this position. Replace the color with this one and reselect the ellipse tool to add one more circle that you can type on. This one should be 236 pixels wide. Move it to the center of the artboard. Use again the type on a path tool to add some text along the circle. Let's type in brewing since 1942. Press again the escape key when you're done. Use this bracket to move your text inside the circle in this position. Move to the control panel and replace this font with the Foreign Rough 2 font. Don't forget to replace the color with this one and continue with the rectangle tool from your toolbar. Start with a 40 by 10 pixels rectangle. Fill it with red. Press Ctrl M plus to zoom in on this shape and then continue with a 40 by 20 pixels rectangle. Place it in this exact location and then press the plus hotkey to reactivate the Add Anchor Point tool. Use it to add 3 points in these positions. Then continue with the direct selection tool and use it first to drag this point 25 pixels up. Continue with this point and move it 10 pixels up and 10 pixels to the right. And finally select this point and drag it 10 pixels to the left and 10 pixels up. Once you're done, select both of these shapes and let's place them in this position. Also turn them into a compound path by going to Object, Compound Path and Make. Set the corners radius to 3 pixels. And then go to Effect, Restore and Transform and Roughen. Check these two boxes. Set the values to 1 and 3. Click OK to apply this effect and press Ctrl and 0 to zoom back on your entire design. Reselect the ellipse tool from your toolbar. For the beginning, use it to create a 70 by 25 pixels shape. Press Ctrl and plus to zoom in on this ellipse. First of all, remove this roughen effect. Then select the fill and replace the color with this one. And select a stroke and apply this color. Increase the weight to 5 points and then press Ctrl C and Ctrl F to add a copy of this ellipse in the same place. Let's select this original ellipse and use the direct selection tool to drag this point 40 pixels down. Then use the anchor point tool to drag the handles of this point 35 pixels to the left like this. And then use the selection tool to reselect this ellipse. Hold down the Alt key and drag a copy 10 pixels down in this position. Continue with the direct selection tool and use it to select these 2 points so that you can delete them. Remove the fill color. Lower the stroke weight to 4 points and don't forget to open the stroke flyout panel and select with profile number 4 from this list. Also click this button to move the sharp edge on this other end of the path. Press again Ctrl and F to add a new copy of this ellipse. Reselect the ellipse tool and this time use it to create a 60 by 15 pixels shape. Move this new ellipse in this position. Hold down the Shift key to select it along with this copy. Click the intersect button from the Pathfinder panel. Let's focus on the appearance panel and first of all select with profile number 1 from this list. Replace the fill color with this one. Continue with the direct selection tool and use it to select just this point so that you can cut the path at that point. And then switch to the line segment tool from your toolbar to add some vertical paths. First, create a 45 pixels line from this point. And then add another 2 lines that should be 30 pixels long, like this. Once you're done, select these lines and go to Effect, Restore and Transform and Zigzag. Check these 2 boxes, set the values to 1, click OK to apply the effect, and continue with the rectangle tool. Let's add a 15 pixel square in this position. Remove the zigzag effect, open the stroke flyout panel and select this uniform profile. Now use the direct selection tool to select these 2 points and set the corners radius to 7.5. Select just this point and move it 10 pixels down like this. Select this point and set the corners radius to 6 pixels. And now that you've got this tiny handle, let's also add a plate for this coffee cup. Reselect the ellipse tool from your toolbar. Use it to create a 90 by 50 pixels shape. Move it in this exact position. Fill it with the same color that's used for the stroke. Drag it behind the rest of the shapes that make up your coffee cup, and then go to Object, Path, and Offset Path. Set the offset to -10 pixels and click OK to create this new shape. Remove the fill color, select the stroke and replace the color with this one. Then go to Object, Path, and Add Anchor Points. Let's use the direct selection tool to select these points so that you can remove it. And then return to the Appearance panel to open the Stroke Flyout panel and select again with profile number 1 from this list. Now that you've got your cup, all you have to do is select all of these shapes and press Ctrl G to group them. Let's press Ctrl N0 to zoom in on our design. Select your coffee cup and drag it in the center of your logo, and then continue with the rectangle tool to create the background. Just click on your artboard to create an 850 pixel square. You can press Shift and X to quickly swap the fill and stroke color settings. Click these 2 buttons to move your shape to the center of the artboard, and then right-click on it and go to Arrange and Send to Back to move it behind the rest of the shapes that make up your logo. Continue to Envato Elements to download this set of grunge vector textures and then return to your Illustrator document. Open texture number 44. Select it and press Ctrl C to copy it. Close this document and return to your design. Press Ctrl and V to paste this texture. Let's lower the height to 450 pixels. Replace the color with this one and lower the opacity to 50%. And then return to Envato Elements to also download this set of paper textures. Once you're done, get back to your Illustrator document. All you need is this paper 8 texture, so let's drag it inside the document. Keep it selected and lower the height to 850 pixels. Move it to the center of the artboard and change the blending mode to multiply. And with this final touch, your design is complete. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Remember to hit that like button as it lets me know that I did a good job. Subscribe if you aren't already, and don't forget to click that little bell icon to be notified of any new tutorials. I'm Andrei Marius, and I'll see you in the next video.